Sam from Road Trail Run here. I want to share our review of the Skechers Performance Max Road 4 Hyper. It's a brand new shoe from Skechers. It'll be $125 and it'll be available in the first week to second week of September. So it's a maximally cushioned shoe with a 28 millimeter heel stack, 22 millimeter forefoot, and if you add in the sock liner and the board below it, you get the 37-31. What's remarkable, it weighs only 8.4 ounces in a US 9 or 238 grams, and the women's in a size 7 weighs 6.3 ounces, 179 grams. So this is remarkably light, and credit for that goes to Skechers Hyperburst Foam, which is a very interesting new EVA-based foam, which was first seen in the very fine Razor 3 Hyper, and also in the more recent Run 7 Hyper. Now, what is Hyperburst? Well, Hyperburst starts from a form, an EVA form that resembles the midsole, and then what they do is inject CO2 in a supercritical state, which infuses that form, and then as it cools and becomes more liquid, the CO2, it forms millions of teeny cell-like bubbles, which are fairly consistent in size and shape, and that provides the shoe the lightness, but also the resiliency and the spring. All 5 of us who tested noted on the run. So this is a very exciting ride from Hyperburst. Now, part of the credit, but also some issues for that ride, comes from the podular design of the midsole-outsole combination. So we start with a really solid heel landing. It feels great. There's plenty of stability. And then we move forward to the pods, which are really quite pronounced. And I'm going to show you what the pods of the Run 7 look like. Not nearly as deep and pronounced. So what that does on the run is it definitely provides a really propulsive, springy effect on toe off, but also for some of our testers, it produced heat at the ball of the feet and even some blisters. We don't think it's an upper issue. We'll talk about the upper, but it has more to do, we think, from the great flexibility of the shoe, which for that big stack is amazing. But for example, one of our testers weighs 200 pounds and he tends to land supinate quite a bit. So what happens is we think the pods get squished, if you will, and that creates some differences in friction. So 3 of our testers, and it's been a real hot summer everywhere from Arizona to New Hampshire to Singapore to Washington, D.C. to Austin, where we tested this shoe. But three testers thought it was quite warm, especially at the ball of the foot. Of course, knit uppers aren't the coolest. So that's something to consider if you're a heavier weight runner, or if you tend to land to the outside potentially, or you have a very hard forefoot strike. Now, 2 of our 5 testers noted quite a bit of accelerated wear, including our 200-pound tester, as well as Hope, Gal. Quite a bit of scuffing at the pods. I have about the same miles they do, and everything looks good. There's very little wear anywhere. So this is a shoe that may depend a bit on your running style. So please also read our full review in detail and ask as many questions here or on the review, even better, after you've had a read of the various testers. Now, over to the upper. The upper is a compression knit upper. It's very much 3-dimensional. I wear tested this shoe through many versions, and while the initial design, including the outsole, didn't change, Skechers tuned the fibers, their type, their consistency, density, to get a really very decent lockdown in a knit upper. Often knit uppers are challenging. Many of us with the, if you will, simpler Run 7 had real issues with the lockdown of this upper, even with the straps. Here it's more than adequate. It's very, very decent. You have this high stretch collar, which also helps lock the foot because it's all basically, even though this is sewn, it's all one piece. You also have padding, modular pads, and it's a little hard to see, but there's some underlays. So the fit is kind of a more comfort fit, but it's still definitely secure. We were all true to size, no issues with width or the toe box or slipping, although one of our testers did feel that she was slipping off the platform a bit on sharper turns. That wasn't the case with many of us for the Run 7, where the upper really was quite sloppy. So this is a great upper. Now the ride. Even though folks had some issues, the ride was really, the word that was used over and over again was sublime. It's incredible. You have that very light shoe, lots of cushioning, lots of spring. The resiliency of the Hyper really comes to light here. Two of us, and actually three of us, really noted that, and this may seem a bit strange, that as you pick up the pace, the shoe feels better and better. It runs much better faster than slower. I, for one, found that at slow paces, I would get a bit hung up at the midfoot. Maybe that's the Skechers M Strike, and I could sort of feel the pods in the way. But as I picked up the pace, and for me that's 10 miles, it just absolutely comes to life, and it seems to want to get faster and faster. In some ways, two of us felt it was a bit like the Vaporfly. And that may be because instead of a plate, what we're doing is compressing the foam and the pods towards the road, towards a firmer surface, and then they're releasing and there's a spring. So you do feel kind of a spring fall forward feeling, not the same as the Vaporfly, but there are some similarities. So all in all, it's an incredible ride. Underfoot, some may be challenged, so please read our review at the forefoot. Again, it's $125. It's coming to market, the Skechers Performance Max Road 4 Hyper, in the beginning of September. Between the 5th and the 10th of September, should start seeing it show up. It's an incredible new option, and please read our review and feel free to ask as many questions as you want here or on the written review. Thank you very much for watching Road Trail Run.